Good morning, dreamers. It has been a long time since I've done a video, and as you can see, I am not in my garden. I'm also not in my house. So, where I am is at a doctor's appointment, but I have time to do a devotional. So, this devotional is called A Gardener's Offering. And I took some time to research this a few months ago, and because I'd seen a couple of sermons about Cain and Abel, and I'd read a couple of devotionals about Cain and Abel, and my mind became curious. I wanted to know why. Why was Cain's offering as a gardener unacceptable to God versus Abel's offering as a shepherd? And I'm going to tell you what I got out of it. All right, I'm going to start reading. I'm reading out of the TLV, and I'm starting in Genesis 4, 1 through 5. Now, the man had relations with Eve, his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, I produced a man with Adonai. Then she gave birth to his brother Abel. Abel became a shepherd of flocks, while Cain became a worker of the ground. So it happened after some time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Adonai, while Abel, he also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. Now Adonai looked favorably upon Abel and his offering, but upon Cain and his offering he did not look favorably. Cain became very angry, and his countenance fell. Why, friends? Why did God favor Abel's offering over Cain's? In Genesis 4:4, Abel brought the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground. Genesis 4:3. I'm a gardener. You all know, if you follow me for any length of time, you see me out in my garden. What I offer from my garden is fruit of the ground, meaning I grow it from the earth. Does this mean that God wouldn't accept my offering? No, friends, it doesn't mean that at all. Let's go back and look at the verses. Look at the wording of the verses. Okay? So it happened after some time that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Adonai. That's verse 3. While Abel, verse 4, he also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. Friends, what's so different about these two verses? Let me tell you about me as a gardener. I often gift produce from my garden, and that is fruit of the ground. Okay? When I look it over, I make sure that there is no bug damage, no signs of disease, no pesticide use, and no pests on my offering. Okay? What I'm giving is the very best. Let's look back at Abel's offering. He gave God the firstborn ewes. And if you know anything about sheep, they usually give birth in multiples. Okay? So that means that Abel had to be present at every birth, and he had to keep track of every firstborn sheep, every firstborn lamb. Okay? And sheep can give birth up to 5 lambs. All right? That means that if multiple sheep, some of the YouTubers I watch who have sheep, a lot of times some of their sheep go into labor at the same time, and they deliver at the same time. So now you have Abel, who has a flock of sheep. We don't know how big the flock was. It could be 500. We don't know. But he was keeping track of every firstborn lamb. All right? And that's the offering that he gave to God. On the other hand, Cain's offering was just an offering. If you remember in the Bible, when Jesus asked his disciples what was the difference between the woman who gave the penny and the rabbi who gave, or the person who gave a lot. And he said that the lady who gave the penny was much more favorable. I'm not wording it right. I know I'm not wording it right. But the gist of it was her offering was better than the person who was rich offering. So why was her offering better? She only gave a penny. She gave a mite. She gave just a tiny little bit. But Jesus said her offering was better because she gave her last. She gave out of her need. While the other person was just giving an offering to look good. All right. Now, as a gardener, I grow collards. All right. The very worst leaves get dropped on the ground to compost in place to refeed the soil. The pest damaged ones, they get washed off to make sure no pests are on it, but they go to the rabbit. We don't eat it. Okay? They're pest damaged. They're okay to eat, but we give it to the rabbit. Now, the very best leaves are eaten. They're gifted. That means we're donating it. They're frozen or they're canned. What Cain offered was the equivalent to what I give to my bunny. I hope. I hope he didn't give God the pest-ridden, bug-damaged. I can only hope that it was the equivalent of what I give to my bunny. I don't know. But what I do know is while Abel gave his very best, Cain just gave God an offering. What Cain offered, God was equivalent. I said that already. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Now, friends, we cannot have that mentality of it's not perfect, but it'll do. Because we should be giving God our very best. He knows that we're not perfect, but we are perfected through Him, through Christ. So give God your best. Give God your very best so that He can use you. Okay? Everything that you do for God should be your very best. Not an it will do. It won't. It won't do. God won't accept it. It is an unacceptable offering. Are you giving God a Cain offering or an Abel offering? Take the time to pray and ask God what type of offering you're giving Him. And if it's an acceptable offering, it might not be. And it might be. It might be that that offering is a sweet smelling incense for God. If it's unacceptable, then ask God, ask Him to show you what you're doing wrong and how you can do better. Okay? As George Jean in the Gospel 4 sings, whatever you need, you can find it in the Word of God. You will find how to give God an acceptable offering in the Word. You guys have a blessed day. I'll see you next time. Bye.